Hello, and thank you for your interest in our amazing Alaska cruise tour that we have planned for you in June of 2022. I'm Bob, one of your expedition leaders here at Entourage Expeditions. So join me for the next 15 minutes while I explain a little bit more about this exciting expedition that we have planned for you. So a little bit more about us here at Entourage Expeditions. So we are a member of the Heartland Chamber of Commerce and have taken group trips all over the world for over 6 years now. So as you can see, we've traveled to China, Switzerland, Iceland, Vietnam, a Rhine River cruise, Ireland, Holland, just to name a few. And we continue to keep adding more destinations each year onto our programs. So here's a brief overview map so you'll get an idea of knowing exactly where we will be traveling next year, where we'll be starting in Vancouver, working our way up with 3 ports of call, Juneau, Skagway, and Ketchikan. And then something that helps to make this trip unique is a visit to the Glacier Bay National Park. Now, while many cruise lines will cruise to Alaska, very few will actually visit Glacier Bay National Park. And we're scheduled to visit it here on this particular expedition. At which point, after a 7-night cruise, we will port in Whittier and embark upon a train trip into the central part of Alaska, up into the Denali National Park, and spend 3 nights on the interior before ending our expedition in Anchorage. So some highlights of the trip itself. We do have 1 night planned for Vancouver before we sail. We have the 7-night Alaskan cruise in your choice of a cabin category. We have the group cocktail party that is planned, as well as meals in the main dining room are included. We have the train trip, the direct to the Wilderness Alaska Rail service that's included, the 3 nights in the Alaskan interior at the Denali Lodge, McKinley Lodge, as well as in downtown Anchorage itself, and then a natural history tour into Denali National Park. We have us, the Entourage Expeditions, as well as Chamber of Commerce hosts that will be joining you on this amazing expeditions. And of course, our unmatched attention to detail and the low initial deposit to get you going on this trip. Let's watch this video to learn a little bit more about this amazing expedition. Wow, so that looks like an amazing opportunity that we have planned for you. So let's take a little bit more look at what the day-by-day itinerary looks like for this journey itself. So we have on day one for our travel in early June of next year, we'll be traveling up to Vancouver, preferably as a group, but certainly if those of you from other parts of the country wish to join us, we can arrange for separate flights to have you join the group up in Vancouver. We'll spend one night at a city center hotel located right in downtown Vancouver, so close to all the action as well as the food. And perhaps maybe you want to spend the afternoon at your leisure going out and visiting Stanley Park or one of the other attractions in the Vancouver area. The next morning after breakfast and after some more leisure time, we'll be heading midday over to the Canada Place Pier where we'll be boarding the Majestic Princess to begin our Alaskan cruise itself. Our next day, starting with day 3, you can enjoy a nice relaxing full day at sea. Enjoy some of the amenities on board the Majestic Princess, as well as perhaps meeting up with some of your fellow group members, perhaps maybe for some cards or some other fun activity that's there. As we arrive on day 4, it's our first port of call, Ketchikan. So one thing that really helps to make an Alaskan itinerary like this so unique is that we're in port a very long time. So our port times are generally anywhere from 9 to 12 hours in length. So generally we get in the early morning hours and then leave in the evening hours itself. So our first protocol again is Ketchikan. So you can obviously go out on your own or join one of the optional excursions that there. So maybe it's an attempt to go to the Salmon Bank or go see the native Saxon village that's there. In the evening, we will set sail again and head towards day 5 for our second port of call, which is the capital of Alaska, Juneau. So get another full day to be able to enjoy exploring on your own and or joining in one of the amazing optional excursions. I know a lot of folks are usually interested in visiting the very unique Mendenhall Glacier and perhaps getting up close to that glacier on an even smaller vessel, or even maybe consider doing a flight seeing tour and a helicopter landing right on the glacier itself. So all optional excursions you can consider when adding to this cruise itself. Then we reach day 6. So we have our next port of call, which is Skagway. So again, another full day exploring on your own or joining one of the other amazing optional excursions. A lot of folks on our trip probably will be interested in joining the Scenic White Pass Railway, where it is one of the last narrow gauge railways that's left in the world. So a nice 3.5-hour journey as we either enter or come back from Canada on this half-day excursion itself. So Scenic White Pass Railway, very popular option. Then the next day, we will be scenic cruising of Glacier Bay National Park. As I mentioned before, many cruise lines will sail Alaska. Very few will actually visit Glacier Bay National Park. So you'll be able to see the wonders of glaciers as they are calving, as well as just acting up as glaciers do. And surprisingly enough, glaciers are actually a little bit more noisier than we would kind of expect for a big hunk of ice itself. So National Park Service guides will join the ship at this point to be able to provide some narrative in regards to the area itself. And we'll spend several hours of scenic cruising in this area. The next day, we also have more scenic cruising of the College Fjord as we work our way to the northwesterly direction to Alaska's interior itself. So again, another day of scenic cruising. Then as we continue, as we arrive on day 9, this is the day that we will disembark from the ship in the morning hours, and we will embark upon the train, which is actually ported very close to exactly where the boat is coming into, and about a 9.5-hour journey from Whittier along the port through Alaska's interior up to the Denali National Park. So what we like about this is it's a nice dome car, so you're able to get a real good panoramic view of Alaska's interior as we're going along the way. We will spend the night at the Princess Denali Lodge, so typically arriving around 6 p.m. There's a few activities that are scheduled for optional that you might want to join in, or just go ahead and relax and socialize with your fellow explorers at that time. The next morning, we will wake up and enjoy a natural history tour. This natural history tour is put on by the National Park Service, and we'll find out exactly when we are going to be scheduled for, but generally happens in the morning hours when we're there that day. Just after the lunch hour, we will transfer by motor coach over to the Princess McKinley Lodge, and you'll have opportunities for some more optional excursions that you wish to go on, or again, just hang out and relax because obviously you've had multi-days in on this expedition, and you may just want to be able to enjoy some of the majestic scenery that's available for you. The next morning, you will have more opportunities for optional excursions at the McKinley Lodge before midday transfer via motor coach back to Anchorage itself. So when we arrive in Anchorage, just before 6 p.m., there is an optional trolley tour that you can take of the city, or you can certainly explore this city. The hotel is in a prime location, very close to shops and restaurants. If you want to pick up any last minute souvenirs or trinkets to remember your amazing Alaskan expedition, this is a great time to do that. Then the day 12, the final day, we'll be heading back to the central area. So back to the Milwaukee, Chicagoland area, or to wherever your home may be, that we can arrange for flights for you. And generally we leave in the morning hours out of Anchorage and we arrive back here in the Midwest in the evening hours. Now here's an amazing opportunity. I do have some folks that are always interested in spending more time in Alaska. So this is a great opportunity for you to extend your trip perhaps another 3 or 4 nights, and we can work for you to amend your flights to last a little bit longer in there. And perhaps maybe you wish to explore maybe a little further east or even head up north. And we can give you some suggestions if you'd like to extend your time in Alaska. So let's learn a little bit more about the Majestic Princess. She currently has a full capacity of 3,600 guests and was launched just in 2013. So one of the more newer class of ships that Princess does sail itself. And she currently does have 3 main dining rooms as well as great activities on board. So let's take a quick peek at the room categories that are available on the Majestic Princess. So we have the mini suite, which is currently at 323 square feet. The very popular balcony stateroom, which is at 214 to 222 square feet, or an interior. So a lot of times folks ask, well, what's really the major difference? Why do I need one over the other? Well, I can tell you the most popular option on this cruise is certainly the balcony cabin, because it does provide panoramic views. And if you're going to Alaska, Alaska is one of those destinations, if your budget allows for it, to get one of those amazing balcony cabins. Now, if you happen to be traveling with some other folks and you happen to be the entertainers of the group, you might want to consider moving up to that mini suite, because it's going to provide a little bit larger seating area inside your room. It's going to give you a love seat instead of a chair, and will also provide perhaps more chairs or a bigger balcony area for entertaining. So you might want to consider that also for you. So let's learn a little bit more about a fun principle that we have here at Entourage Expeditions. So we know that travel, although we plan for the best, travel isn't always necessarily perfect. So when something goes awry, we try to employ the fun principle and just kind of remind you about that. So again, with travel, always just try to maintain some sort of flexibility. Again, we plan things to be the best, but sometimes things just don't work out. And when stuff doesn't work out quite well at the time, certainly have some sort of understanding. It's nothing that's geared towards you or anyone else, but certainly our tour managers and expedition leaders will do the best to try to recover as best as possible in a safe and orderly fashion. And then, of course, when things go awry, be nice. Be nice to your fellow tour managers, expedition leaders, and your fellow explorers. It'll certainly will go a long way. So here's some facts that you need to know about the cruise itself. So average temperatures once we get into Alaskan interiors, generally during this time of the year in mid-June, is in the low 70s for the highs and low 50s to upper 40s for the lows in the evening. So generally you dress in layers, but this time of the year generally is a little bit drier than other parts of the Alaskan cruise time period. Remember that we have exceeding 19 hours of daylight, and during the time that we're going is over the solstice. So really, as we continue north, the sun will just dip slightly below the horizon and then will rise very quickly in the very early morning hours. But fortunately, you have blackout shades in your cabin as well as in the guest rooms in the land hotels. Currency will be using the US dollar, Canadian dollar, as well as Visa and MasterCard are accepted and widely on board. On board the ship itself, it is actually a cashless environment, so you'll be establishing a sign and sail account, and we'll discuss that at future Mixer meetings. Group flights, we do have those available for you, which we'll have the exact times available in fall of 2021, and we'll share those with you and let you know the pricing on that. But a lot of folks do opt to travel with the group from the Milwaukee or Chicagoland area, just so that we all arrive and depart at the same time. But certainly if you're joining us from other parts of the country, we can make arrangements for flights for you. We also include our famous pre-departure mixers and meetings where you get a chance to meet your fellow explorers well before traveling, help to break the ice. and to be able to know a little bit more about the expedition, a little bit more about each other at different intervals along the way. Our initial deposit for this cruise tour is $500 per person when there's either 1 or 2 people in the stateroom. If you do happen to have a stateroom that right away requires 3 or 4, we will accelerate that and actually need an additional payment. So we can go ahead and assign your room, because rooms that hold 3 or 4 people are limited on this sailing. We do have future payments. So you put down the initial deposit, we will have a second payment and we'll provide that date for you. And then we'll also then have a final payment date for you. We do want to remind you, like as if on all of our expeditions, all of the payments are non-refundable. On this trip, we do allow for deviations. Deviations would happen at the end of the journey while you're in Alaska itself. So you can give us a call and discuss with us some options that you may have for extending your stay in the amazing Alaska. Travel insurance is available through Travel Guard, and so we will provide that for you. It's based upon your travel investment, the length of travel, as well as your age. And again, generally speaking, travel insurance to help to protect your investment is roughly about 10%, but again, will vary based upon the other factors on there. But just as a general rule of thumb, sometimes it comes in 7 or 8%, sometimes it comes in 11 or 12%, but you can generally guess that 10% will be the number for you. We wear comfortable attire. Again, we dress in layers because it generally has cool mornings and warmer afternoons. And so we'll go over that in our pre-departure mixers in regards to what exactly you should consider packing. And this tour itself does have very special packing requirements, since we have all of our luggage with us at one point, and then to a point, luggage will be splitting when we enter the land portion. But again, we'll discuss that in future meetings. So what to budget for? Well, obviously the stateroom itself, the stateroom view that you choose here, and that's located on the brochure. You have to factor in the cost of the airfare. Airfare is not included because, again, we have folks that like to deviate or travel with the group or travel outside the group. So we will help to arrange that for you. You need to consider any sort of travel protection or insurance that you may wish to add to the trip, which most folks do. Meals while you're on the land portion. So while you're in Vancouver or at the 3 nights of the hotels and lodges in Alaska's interior, those are not included. You consider any of your shore excursions. Those are not included, with the exception of the natural history tour when we're at the Denali Park. That is included on this. Any of your beverages or gratuities are not included on this. Check with us though, because we may have special incentives going on that may help to include some of these things. So that's always something to think about, as well as some of your onboard services. So any of sort of your spas or casinos, again, those are not included in the cost of this expedition. We want to remind you that a valid passport book with 6 months of validity is required for entry on this trip, because we will be traveling by air into Canada itself. We also remind you that Canada has very strict regulations for anyone that has any sort of criminal history background on it. Please do check with the Canadian government if this may affect you, because it may affect your admissibility into the country itself. So certainly, if you do have any questions about this amazing cruise tour expedition that we have planned for June of 2022, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is located here at 262-293-4424, or reach out via email at info@entourageexpeditions.com. On behalf of our entire team here at Entourage Expeditions, thank you so much for spending the time with us to learn more about this amazing Alaska cruise tour expedition, and we hope to see you on board. Take care.